Thank you for joining the Release Note webinar for the NetSuite version 2019.1 release for SRP and project management. As you know, we're running a couple of Release Notes webinars this week. Yesterday we had System Administration by Anna. As I said, today I'll be presenting you the new features for SRP and project management. Tomorrow at 4 we'll have the accounting session by Sebla, and then on Friday a joint session by Chloe and Marcel, who will be presenting the new features for CRM and order management and W&D and manufacturing. If you're still interested in joining the accounting one or the CRM order management one or W&D manufacturing one, just send me an email, boss@fastfour.com. I can still add you to the attendance list if you're interested. Focus industry for this presentation is software and services. Two requests before we start. One is please mute your microphone during the feature presentations to not bother anyone else. Another one is please post any questions you may have in the chat window. I'll try to answer them after the feature demonstration or afterwards in a follow-up email. I'm by myself today, unfortunately, so I will probably have to get back to you over email, but I'll try to do my best to answer them as quickly as possible. So on the agenda for today, I think we should be able to go through this in about 30 minutes. I'll be discussing some new features around missing weekly timesheets, the possibility to add foreign currency expense reports, weekly timesheet improvements. I'll be talking about resource groups, charge-based billing support for purchases, project management improvements, and the possibility to create projects from sales transactions. So I am going to start off with the missing weekly timesheets. As you know, I think you're all working with timesheets in NetSuite. It's been quite cumbersome to generate reports and searches on missing timesheets, and any timesheets that were incomplete or didn't have enough submitted hours as compared to, for instance, a work calendar or planned hours. One of the main reasons for this was that for timesheets that had not been submitted or timesheets that had not been created at all for a certain week, no record was created. This made it very difficult to, technicality very difficult to report on because of the lack of the record. So NetSuite's made some changes here. First off is the automated creation of missing timesheet records. And in addition, some timesheets fields to report on were created. What happens now is for missing weekly timesheets is missing weekly timesheets are automatically created for the current week and previous 5 weeks on the first day of the week for active employees and project resources. That means for the reporting part, you'll always be, from the start, be able to report 5 weeks back on missing timesheets. These timesheets will be records that are created, and they'll always be there. So in the past, you can now further back, ongoing report on any missing timesheets that there might be. So I'm going to give you a quick demonstration. So when I go to the weekly timesheet in NetSuite, let's give it a minute to open. You'll see that in the current week, even though I haven't written any time, there will be a timesheet for me that's available. Now if I switch to past weeks, I know I've written time in this week, and I've written time in this week. But the week before, and that's up to 5 weeks back from the start, there will be a timesheet record created for that specific. Yeah, so a step back, if I navigate to weekly timesheets, you'll see that automatically now a timesheet record is created for the current week and 5 weeks back. So if I navigate a couple of weeks back, you'll see that there will be timesheets for at least 5 weeks in the past for any active resources at right time and projects. So another feature that was added are there's decimal fields now that you can report on timesheets. So I've created a search to demonstrate what the possibilities are with this. This makes it a lot easier to report on incomplete timesheets. And I will show you how this works. I've created a search using these fields. I'm going to show you which fields these are. NetSuite has added decimal fields for submitted hours, for planned hours, for allocated hours, and work calendar hours. And these fields make it a lot easier than it was currently to report on, for instance, the submitted hours of a user against the hours that should have been submitted in the work calendar or any planned hours. So as you can see, I've created a search on timesheet here. Grouped this by employee and start date of the timesheet. And looking at planned hours, work calendar hours, and submitted hours, I added some highlighting to show in red any timesheets that of which the sum of submitted hours, or the sum of work calendar hours minus the sum of submitted hours, is greater than 0. Basically meaning that I'm have submitted less hours than I have on my work calendar. So if I run this search, it gives me an easy overview of timesheets, and I can filter this from a specific from date, or even a specific week if I fill in an end date as well, or a specific employee. So I can just display my time entries. And now it's a lot easier to create a search and show what my work calendar hours were, what my submitted hours were, and this would be a search you can use, for instance, to track if employees are still having to submit hours, and you can use it to follow up with employees to complete their hours. So that's it for the missing weekly timesheets. Moving on with the foreign currency expense reports. So what this resolves is, up until now, it was not possible in NetSuite for users to generate an expense report in another currency than subsidiary-based currency. To give you an example, if you're a Dutch company with a BV in the Netherlands, but you have staff all over the world, like let's say you work with consultants, for instance, or sales staff in the UK. You may want that UK staff to be able to complete expense reports in GBP and to actually make the payment in GBP. Up until now, this wasn't possible in NetSuite. What NetSuite has added now is the option to create expense reports in multiple currencies and add multiple expense report currencies on the employee record. Meaning, for instance, your sales staff in the UK is able to fill in their expense report in GBP, and it's simpler to actually capture these records in GBP and make payments in GBP in this case. So let me demonstrate this feature to you. First thing you need to do to be able to create an expense report in a foreign currency is you need to activate the currency for this on the employee record. So I'm navigating to my own employee record, and if I look under the Human Resources tab, you will find that a new sublist has been added. and the sublist is called expense report currencies. This user is under the subsidiary US West, meaning the default currency is USD. But if I would like to add any different currency, I can do that by adding them in the expense report currencies. So I'm adding Euro and GBP, saving the record now. And now when I'm entering an expense report, you'll notice that there's an additional field currency. So on my own employee record, I've added a couple of currencies. You'll see it defaults to USD because that's the base currency of the subsidiary and the default expense report currency set on my employee record. But I'm able to switch to euros in this case, for instance. So I'm going to complete this expense report in euros and save it. You'll see that the expenses total is captured in this case in euros, and it's recalculated to, or it's showing the base currency total in USD, because that's the base currency of the subsidiary I'm assigned to. So after approving it, I'm going to make a payment. And you'll see on that payment record, I'm able to pay that expense report in euros as well, as opposed to the base currency of USD of that subsidiary. So that's foreign currency expense reports. Next up, weekly timesheets improvements. A couple of small improvements, but they can come in handy. One is that the weekly timesheet is now available in your recent records. So it's a lot easier for consultants to move back to the last weekly timesheets they were on. If you use the NetSuite native approval page, there's a time entry approval view and a timesheet approval view. That wasn't sticky. Now it's sticky, so we'll stick to the last one that you're using. There's another useful feature I'm going to demonstrate. So first I'll show you under my recent records. I can navigate to the timesheets easily. And under approved time, you used to have to switch between the timesheet view and the time entry view. So this is the timesheet view, and this is the time entry view. This has been made sticky now. Another quite useful addition to weekly timesheets, and that's especially useful for people that work on a lot of different projects throughout the week. Up until now, if you submit your hours every day, once you had submitted, it wasn't possible to add any additional time entries and different days to an already existing line. That would mean that if you had submitted your hours for Monday for this project, the next day would be on a separate line. This could result in very long timesheets, because you would have, for instance, for one project that you would work every day on and submit a time on every day, you'd get 5 different lines, one for every day of the week. So there's been an update to the weekly timesheet, and that now allows you to add additional time to existing lines. So as you can see, I'm on an existing project line and I'm submitting additional hours, and I can just add them to the existing line. So I think this really helps in keeping these timesheets lean and not making them too big with too many lines. And the overview is a lot better with the possibility to add lines to an already existing line in your timesheet. So that's an additional feature to the weekly timesheet. So switching back to the presentation. I want to talk a bit about resource groups, which is another feature that was added in the 19.1 release. So what are resource groups? Resource groups are basically a group of employees that you can assign to a project task in one go. Good to start with is if you use resource allocation, it doesn't currently work with resource allocations yet. So it only allows you to assign a resource group to a project task in one go. So if you work with teams that are built up the same for a lot of projects, and you assign the same group of people to project tasks quite often, it can be quite useful to set up resource groups. What you can do to a project task is, if you have a group of resources and they are grouped in a resource group, you can assign them in one go and automatically divide the labor over these people equally. So to demonstrate that feature, I'm going to switch back to NetSuite. First thing that needs to be activated is on the employee record. An employee needs to be set up as a project resource. So on the employee record, there is under Human Resources a checkbox, Project Resource. This needs to be checked. So if an employee is a project resource, you can make them part of a resource group. And to set up these resource groups, you can navigate to Lists, Employees, Resource Groups. And give your resource group a name, and either filter on, for instance, subsidiary, billing class, department, or location, or simply add resources to the resource group as you please by selecting them from a list. So let's say you have a group of consultants that always work together, or a specific group you use for a specific project or a project type. You can set these up easily and assign them in one go without having to always allocate these individuals to a project task. So I've set up resource group 1. We already had the NetSuite Dream Team. So I'm going to show you how to allocate these resource groups to a project task. I have a project set up for this. We are going to implement at Abbott Inc. NetSuite, the 2019.1 release. And this is just any project you can select from the list. It works on any project. This is a project. It should look quite familiar to you with a couple of project tasks. Now if I want to assign my resource group to, for instance, the first task, which is draft requirements, I just edit the task, and under assignees I have a button Assign Group Members. So here I can choose a resource group. I'm going to use the NetSuite Dream Team. Fill in the estimated work, which is 100 in this case. And I can choose to divide the hours or not. In this case, let's divide the hours over the team members. As a cost method, I can choose to use the employee cost or unit cost. For billing, I can set a specific billing item. Let's do NetSuite Consulting. And I can choose to set a specific billing class or source a billing class from a resource. You see now if I add the group, 3 resources are added from the resource group for 100%. Technical consultant, business analyst, and me in this case. I have the estimated work, which is automatically divided, a unit cost. And I can save the project task, and I have my people assigned for this project task. So that's it for resource groups. Another interesting one, I think, is the improvement on charge-based billing support for purchases. So what does this do? I think for a lot of projects, a lot of our customers have pass-through expenses that should be assigned to a project. So you have a bill coming in, and you want to allocate that bill to a project and maybe bill it to the customer. So if you use a combination of billing, you would generally use charge-based billing as a billing type on your projects. So far on charge-based billing, it wasn't possible to use charges to pass through any expenses coming from purchases, such as expense reports or bills, and to charge those automatically as charges to your customers with a possible markup. So NetSuite has added charge rules currently for service and non-inventory items, expense items. This way you can assign purchases to a project as billable by using charge-based billing. And I'm going to demonstrate that feature. So I'm still on the same project, project 1257, the NetSuite implementation. And as you can see under financial, this project setup is a charge-based project. New to these projects is you can set up purchase rules. And I've set up a purchase rule for this project already. So I'm going to open it to demonstrate. This is just a NetSuite standardized purchase rule. So like I said, it's currently working for non-inventory and service items. And in this case, it will pick up anything from a bill that is approved if it's set to billable. So this is a pass-through rule, but you can add, like with any other rules, you can add a cap, so a maximum of pass-through expenses, and you can add a multiplier. I think this feature is particularly handy when you hire external consultants and you want to charge this to your customer if they work on a specific project. You can just create charge-based rules and do a markup. So what I'm going to do is I am going to enter a bill, and I'm going to assign this bill to this project for it to generate charges. So let's say we have some external consultants working for us for this project. We hire AAA Consulting for us to do some work. And now we've received the bill from AAA Consulting. I'm going to use the item NetSuite Consulting. And I'm going to assign it to the project NetSuite implementation. You could potentially assign it to a project task, but there's no need in this case. Let's say we had 10 hours at a rate of 100. Now if we set it to billable, it will be assigned to this project, and the charge rules will automatically pick it up. So I'm going to add this line. Save the bill. Let's give it a moment. So we have a bill assigned to this project. I am switching back to the project. Looking at the charge run history. I'm going to generate charges now. Let's give it a moment. We see we have one charge generated. And this is something we can build to the customer using a workflow, or using invoice billable customers will automatically show up under the billables for this customer. You can discount it, you can mark it up with a multiplier if you want. You can see this is generated by the charge rule, purchase rule. Switching to the project management improvements, I think there is one feature that a lot of you will be quite happy with. From now on, it will be possible to change projects to a different customer if there are no sales transactions on the project yet. A feature I know you are all hoping for, but is currently not yet available, is the possibility to change the currency on a project. If you want to change it to a different customer, it will have to be within the same subsidiary for now, and it will have to have the same project currency. So I'm going to switch to project 1258, NetSuite implementation customer change. As you can see, this project is assigned to the client Ultima Technology. Just to show you unrelated transactions, I don't have any sales transactions yet, I don't have any costs or journal entries. And at the top of the project, you see I have the Change Client button. So with this button I can change this project to a different client, as long as the client is within the same subsidiary and has the same currency. So I can switch to Abbott Inc., submit it. That will change the client on the project. So something that wasn't possible until now. Let's hope they in the future will allow you to change the currency. There's a lot of situations where we had to switch between a primary or a secondary currency for that customer. That's still locked, but we're hoping for them to work on that in the future. But at least you're able to now switch between clients if there's no sales transactions on the project yet. Last feature I want to demonstrate to you is the possibility to create projects from sales transactions. And I think this is a very cool feature, and it's going to be very, very helpful for a lot of our customers. So what does this feature allow you to do? It allows for automated creation of projects from sales transactions. That could be opportunities, estimates, sales orders. Now, if you had a project that would require scoping from a sales transaction, you would have to create a project from that template and then navigate back to the sales transactions and refresh the lines coming from the project transaction. This rotates that process and allows you to, on the item record, capture a project template or set up project tasks yourself. I'll demonstrate it in a second. And once you use one of those items on a sales transaction, you can automatically create projects from that sales transaction. To demonstrate that feature, I've created an item called NetSuite implementation. It's a service item. It currently only works for service items. That's good to know. On this item, NetSuite implementation, I have a related records tab, and there's a sublist projects. So I can choose to allow to create a project from this service item. And I can also attach a project template to the service item for the project that will be created. So if you want to use project templates for this, you're able to. Alternatively, you don't necessarily have to use a project template. You can also use tasks and set an effort for that specific task. So you could just simply add tasks to the item in the sublist, but in this case I'm going to use the project template for the purpose of this demonstration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare an estimate for one of our customers. And this is a customer to which we are selling a NetSuite implementation. I choose the customer Abbott Inc. And as an item, I'm selecting NetSuite implementation. We'll sell one at a rate of 10,002. And I'm saving the estimate. Now, after saving the estimate, under transactions, there is under the clients or customers list, there's now an option, create projects from sales transactions. So at the point where I want to start scoping this project, from this Suitelet, I can simply select this estimate I want to create a project from. I can give the project a name. It would just take over the name from the project template. Here, the project template is populated automatically, but if I want, I could select a different one. I can also choose a parent project if I want to. So I could potentially store it under a different project. And I can set the project manager. I'll make myself the project manager for this demonstration. Now when I click submit, the project is automatically created. So as you can see, this is the project that I just created. $12.60, and if I navigate back to my estimate, the project that I created is populated on the estimate line. So we have a direct link to the estimate on the estimate line. So these are all the features I wanted to demonstrate to you. In addition, if you want to watch it again or some features you are interested in, we will be posting this webinar on www.fastfour.com. If you're interested in implementing one of these features, you can contact either the webinar host or me at bus@fastfour.com. And again, if you're interested in any of our other release note webinars, please contact me at bus@fastfour.com. And of course, I hope to see you all in our NetSuite User Day, the 21st of May. You should have received an invite today, so please check your mailbox and let me know if you will be attending. And that was it for the SRP and project management demonstration of the release notes. Thanks very much for attending.